Christopher Kraft,
Present.
Klein Lauterbach,
Present.
John Hudson, Hugh Harvey, Dina McCullough, Sidney Chisholm,
Here.
Veronica Thornton.
Present.
I believe we have a quorum.
We do. We have 4. Thank y'all. And I want to thank y'all very much for calling in this morning. I don't know if y'all got by email Mr. McDonough's explanation of why we're having this phone conference. But we have to decide whether or not we can have this meeting because it's a necessary meeting because with the physical presence bias, it's not practical within the period of time requiring action. We wanted to act on these complaints within 6 months, and that participation by a quorum of the members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. So I have a question of Mr. McDonough. Is this a motion that I raise, or is this a vote that we take?
I think you raised the motion, and then the members that are present would then vote on it.
All right. So I would ask that we vote then on whether or not we feel this meeting is necessary in order to handle these complaints before the time goes by for us to have handled them. Would you call the roll for the vote? Can you tell me that again, what we're voting on? All right. In order for us to meet by teleconference, we have to show that that this is a necessity, that we can't just wait until our next physical meeting. The reason that we are given is because these complaints can't be over 180 days old before we handle them. That's what the Department of Commerce and Insurance is adopting. And so what we want to do is we want to handle these before they get more than 180 days old. And if we waited and met later at a physical meeting, they would be older than that.
So that's why we can't wait till December.
That's right.
So why didn't we go in September?
Well, at that time, when we discussed it, we did not have enough on the agenda, I thought, to meet. And then all of these complaints, it turned out, and as I discovered, I didn't know about the 180-day rule. And then I discovered, well, gosh, can we meet earlier because of the time frame rather than meet? I thought we could just meet December 7th, but
We met September. Oh, we skipped September.
yes, we did.
Whoa, okay.
And if we have this phone conference now, there won't be any need to meet December the 7th.
Okay.
But the question is whether or not it's necessary for us to meet by phone. So we have to have approved that. Who joined us in the meantime?
John Hudson.
Thank you. Appreciate your joining us. We call the roll, and we will add you to the roll. We have a quorum, and I appreciate your calling in.
You're very welcome.
So what we need to do is we need to call the roll, and we need to have a vote on whether or not it's a necessity for us to meet. And if we don't find that it's a necessity for us to meet, then we can't meet by phone. We have to meet in public. We would have to wait and meet December 7th.
But that will be too late for the...
Well, it would pass the criteria by which the department likes these complaints handled. They would be too old. We try to handle these within 6 months. Is there any other question of Mr. McDonough or me about the legality of what we're voting on here? All right. Shane, if you want to call the roll for a vote.
Right. Chris Kraft,
I vote there's necessity.
Klein Lauterbach,
I vote there's a necessity.
John Hudson,
I vote there's a necessity.
Sidney Chisholm,
I vote there's a necessity.
and Veronica Thornton.
I also vote there is a necessity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And who else has joined us?
This is Hugh Harvey. Oh, good.
Thank you very much, Judge Harvey, for joining.
I just got through with my trial.
I appreciate it. I hadn't even I usually don't get started on my trial until later. I envy you.
Well, I found that out when I go sub in Memphis. Y'all don't start till 10.
That's right. Yeah, we got to get our views. All right. With that, we found, and just hard to catch up. There's a quorum, and we've also found that it's a necessity for us to meet by telephone. Y'all have gotten a copy of the agenda, and do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda? Move it. Second. And when we vote, we have to vote by name because of our telephone. So I'm not going to say all in favor. Say aye. If you call the roll back. Who's in favor?
Chris Kraft,
I'm in favor of the agenda.
Klein Lauterbach, John Hudson,
I'm in favor.
Hugh Harvey,
Favor.
Sidney Chisholm,
In favor.
Veronica Thornton.
I'm in favor.
All right, the agenda is adopted. Minutes. We were emailed the minutes from June the 1st. And do I hear a motion to approve the minutes that they sent out? We approve them. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Anybody need a minute to review them? All right, then let's call for a vote on the approving the minutes.
Chris Kraft,
Approve?
Klein Lauterbach,
Approve.
John Hudson,
I was not there
Hugh
at that
Harvey.
meeting.
He is abstaining.
Very well. Hugh Harvey,
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm,
I was not there. Abstained.
Veronica Thornton.
I approve.
All right, we'll show the minutes approved. Mr. McDonough, you have a legal report.
Great. Well, I appreciate you all meeting with us on short notice like this. And as you're aware, the complaints that we do have today, there's 5 in all, and all of them deal with the issue about quarterly reports. So it should be a pretty quick report. But let me get started on those.
All right.
The first one is case number 2012012861. The council commenced the complaint process in this matter upon receiving verification from the criminal court clerk's office that the respondent failed to file quarterly reports with the clerk's office. The Davidson County Criminal Court clerk informed the council that the respondent failed to provide quarterly reports to the clerk's office. In response, the respondent states that they have never provided probation services for Davidson County, and the director of this company states that they have been in their current position since 2006, and that they have...
Good morning, everybody. This is our unannounced fire drill for today. We are required by Commerce Insurance to have 2 fire drills per year. This is our second fire drill. Please be prepared to evacuate the pit when you hear the alarm. This is our second fire drill. Unannounced.
Who is this in Nashville, or who's having the fire?
Nashville.
You think you guys can hang with us?
We knew about this beforehand, and we got permission to stay in the room.
Good. If you smell smoke, then let us know.
We'll be out the windows.
All right.
Well, at least they didn't say this is not a drill.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mr. McDonough, you may continue.
Okay. The respondent states that they have never provided probation services for Davidson County. The director of this particular company states that they have been in this current position since 2006, and that they have never provided private probation services to this court system. We found no prior complaints, and in this case we're recommending that this complaint be dismissed.
Any questions?
Why did Davidson County say these people weren't filing it if they weren't doing any work there?
Well, we think that because we found this in a lot of the situations where I think they probably just had them on record as having provided probation services in the past, and for whatever reason,
Never cleared it off.
yeah, they never cleared it off, and so they thought that they should be receiving those reports.
I think we adopt the recommendation.
Is there a second?
I second.
I guess my question is, are they approved as a private probation company by us in Davidson County?
Yes, they are.
Okay, if they're approved by us, then should they file a report saying that they have no probationers? I mean, I think if they're an approved company with us, they should report 0 probationers.
And I thought about that as well, Judge Kraft, and from reading over the law several times, I think really if you're providing services to that particular system, then I think that you should. But the way that I read it, though, I think that if you're not providing those services, though, then you don't have a duty at that point to provide a report a quarterly report.
So do they provide probation services for other counties?
I know that they are registered with our council and with our board, but I can't tell you for sure whether or not they provide it for other counties.
I guess that's...
May I say something, just to Veronica?
Yes.
We had a situation similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
The clerk in Weakley County called me. I think all this stems from the printout that was available to the clerk, informing them as to which programs were licensed to operate in their county. She called me, Pam Lou called me and said, I have this, you're listed on here, but I don't get a quarterly report. And I said, well, we don't accept probationers from your county. You have supervisory services over there. The general sessions judge used it and has for several years. And she said, well, shouldn't I be getting a quarterly report? And I said, well, that's between you and supervisory services. So I had sent an email to the board at that time when all this initially came up and explained that, although we do provide services to the other county within that district, we have never provided services to a Weakley County General Session. So I think that there are probably other situations similar to that.
I guess my question is, if they're not providing services to anyone right now, so that they don't report to us, apparently they're paying their reinstatement fee every year.
Well, you're talking about the provider fee or the licensure fee?
The licensure fee every year.
Yes.
Yes. The misdemeanor or the private probation program that I have, we're in 5 courts, 3 counties, and the only reason we don't provide services to Weakley County General Sessions is because he has always done business with supervisory services, and that's just the way it's always been.
But I mean, your company gives a report to the private probation counsel.
Yes, and we also provide the quarterly report to the courts that we do provide services to. But since we had never accepted or been given any probationers out of Weakley County General Sessions, we didn't feel a need to provide them with a report. I mean, you don't accept any people, so there's nothing to report.
So I guess my question then is, this company, do they give us a report?
Yes,
the
they
Private
do.
Probation Services Council report?
They have stayed current in renewing their license, and they're always current in filing their quarterly reports.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion about that? All in favor of the motion to adopt this disposition? Well, I guess we need to take a roll call vote.
Before I call the roll, who seconded that motion?
John Hudson.
Thank you. And if you'll identify yourselves when you make a motion or second a motion, it would help Susan in the records here.
Thank you.
I call the roll. Chris Kraft.
Approve?
Klein Lauterbach.
Approve.
John Hudson.
Approve.
Hugh Harvey.
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm.
Approve.
Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
Carney?
All right, number 2 is case number 2012012891. The council commenced the complaint process in this matter upon receiving verification from the criminal court clerk's office that the respondent failed to file quarterly reports with the clerk's office. The respondent in this case apologized for the reports being filed late for the first quarter. Respondent states that they were in the process of preparing the report to file with the court, but their office was destroyed by fire on April 16, 2012.
They didn't listen to the fire drill, did they?
Apparently not. The fire destroyed most of the records and computers, but they did file a report on June 13, 2012. On a side note, the complainant states that they did receive the appropriate quarterly report from the respondent on June 13, 2012, and they believe the respondent has fulfilled the requirements for quarterly reports. We found no history of prior complaints, and in this case we're recommending just a letter of warning.
Do I hear a motion to adopt this recommendation?
I move that we adopt the recommendation, Judge Lauterbach.
And second?
Second, Hugh Harvey.
Any discussion or questions? All right, we're ready for a vote.
Chris Kraft,
Approve.
Klein Lauterbach,
Approve.
John Hudson,
Approve.
Hugh Harvey,
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm,
Approve.
Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
All right, motion carries.
All right. Number 3 is case 2012012-871. The council commenced the complaint process in this matter upon receiving verification from the criminal clerk's office that the respondent failed to file quarterly reports with the clerk's office. The respondent states that they do not provide any services to the General Sessions Court clerk, who claimed that they had not filed quarterly reports. Therefore, the respondent states that they have no obligation to prove that provide that report to the entity. We found no history of prior complaints, and we're recommending to dismiss this case.
Is there a motion to approve?
We approve the recommendation.
Second.
Second, Hugh Harvey.
Any questions or discussion? All right, let's call the vote.
Chris Kraft,
Approve.
Klein Lauterbach,
Approve.
John Hudson,
Approve.
Hugh Harvey,
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm,
Approve.
Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
All right, motion carries.
All right, number 4 is case 2012012-881. The council commenced the complaint process in this matter upon receiving verification from the criminal court clerk's office that they have not received any quarterly reports from any probation company. The clerk also stated that they no longer use this entity for private probation services. Respondent states that they have not provided private probation services in this court in several years, and because no services are rendered through this respondent, they state that they are not responsible for quarterly reports. We found no prior complaints, and we're recommending to dismiss this case.
I move we adopt the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second, Hugh Harvey.
Any discussion or questions? I want to ask, it seems like there's a theme here for these complaints. Do we have the same, I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden we're getting complaints that reports aren't being filed. Was there some notice that was sent to clerk's office or something that's prompting this?
If you'll remember, I guess it was in January?
January, I think.
In January of this year, Ms. Hancock sent a letter to all the clerk's offices throughout the state to remind them that these private probation companies are responsible for filing quarterly reports regarding the individuals that they're overseeing, and so the clerks would send in the information stating that they haven't received quarterly reports from those companies, and so we opened complaints in that case, and so we're recommending either dismissal or letters of warning in that case, just to remind them that they are responsible for those reports. So
okay,
that's where that's coming from.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right, let's call the vote.
Chris Kraft,
Approve.
Klein Lauterbach,
Approve.
John Hudson,
Approve.
Hugh Harvey,
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm,
Approve.
Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
All right, motion carries.
Okay. Number 5 is case 2012012-901. The council commenced the complaint process in this matter upon receiving verification from the criminal court clerk's office that the respondent failed to file quarterly reports with the clerk's office. A respondent states that they do not provide probation services to this particular court. The court uses the services of another private probation company. We found no prior complaints, and we're recommending a dismissal of this complaint.
I move we adopt the recommendation. Ms. Lauterbach.
Is there a second?
Hugh Harvey.
Any discussion or questions? All right, call the vote.
Chris Kraft,
Approve.
Klein Lauterbach,
Approve.
John Hudson,
Approve.
Hugh Harvey,
Approve.
Sidney Chisholm,
Approve.
Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else that you have?
I believe that's it for the legal report.
All right. Ms. Hancock?
Assuming all of you received your packets of information for the meeting from Ms. Lockhart, and she did tab the information, so if you'll move over to tab 3, which is our standard report for complaints this year versus last year, the number that are pending, the number that are open. you'll see January 29th of 2011, we had 0 complaints pending. October 31st, there were 6, and as of today, there will be 1 pending. So, if you don't have any questions under tab 3, I'll move to tab 4, which is your fiscal year closeout report for 11 and 12. Down the right-hand column are the figures for closing out that year. And I'll run down that column if you'd like, and then if you have questions later, just let me know.
All right.
In the right-hand column, you'll see that $8,340 was for regular salaries and wages, $82 for longevity, $4,061 for employee benefits, for a total payroll expenditure there, $12,483. Coming down under the next categories, travel, $2,923, communications and shipping, $598, $152 in supplies, $1,488 in computer-related services, $10,622 in state professional services, for a total $15,783. Add that to the $12,000 above, a grand total of $28,266 from your budget. Coming on down, the cost backs for administration services was $6,904. So for a total expenditures there of $35,169. Then we go into the revenue. Total revenue received was $132,385. $195 of that was taken or given to the Department of Revenue for the services they provide us on the state regulatory fee. Net revenue after that was $132,190. Last year there was a fiscal reserve balance of $97,021. So that added to the net revenue leaves a balance of $208,974. I'm sorry, that's plus the reserve balance is $208,974 for a total balance of $305,995.
So we're definitely not in the red anymore.
No, not in the red anymore.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
So that means out there in Never Never Land, we have a credit for $305,000.
Yes.
What that means?
Yes. You have that in reserves.
Okay. So theoretically, I know these are simple questions, I just get confused about this. But theoretically, if we stop charging money and only had little expenses of $20,000, $30,000 a year for 10 years, we have something accumulated we can set off against, right? Out there in the atmosphere someplace, we have this credit.
Yes.
Okay. Now the other question is, all of a sudden we went from 170 professional services last year to 10,000 this year. What is that?
Professional services, are you talking about? Oh, those are the charges that the General Services Department charges us for mailing out your renewals, for mailing out the licenses, and why it jumped $10,622 over the other years, I don't know. I can find that out.
Can you check on that so the next meeting we can see what that was? Why that's...
I just thought Miss Hancock got a raise. That's what I thought.
No,
that'd be okay, just so we know why it jumped.
That'd be at the top of the chart, not down there.
I understand.
But I will find that out.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, no other questions on that.
Thank you.
The second page over is how the department breaks down your cost back charges that were showing up on the other page for $6,904. It gives you the percentages there, total reg board percentages that are calculated, and then they break it down by the spending plan for private probation services and the number of licensees. So the percentage that you paid there out of the entire Greg Board division was 0.1735% for $6,904. I'll be bringing you budget reports every quarter on where you stand now on a month-to-month basis with your revenue and your expenditures. So the third page into my report, I think it's in color. Did you send it to them in color?
It is, unless we have a black and white printer only. Right.
Yes, this is the page we updated yesterday because in going over it, I found that there was an error there in logging the fees that we received for the total year of, was it 09? I think it was 09. But just the right-hand column is what we're looking at. We're going to update you on a quarterly basis. And the right-hand column is year-to-date through October 30th, just showing the fees that are coming in. And this will help us identify if we drop off suddenly or gain money suddenly in some area. This will help show us where it is.
All right.
And then it compares the last 3 years of the budgets there. So you'll see too where your fees are coming from, and the vast majority is the quarterly provider fees. So far we've received no application fees through October. That's July through October 30th. 0 application fees, $500 in renewal fees, and $97 in miscellaneous fees. And the majority of that is overpayments on the quarterly provider, or late payments on the quarterly provider fees. The next page over is a breakdown of your expenditure reports, and it's similar to the revenue report that I just gave you. In the right-hand column is through September 30th. When we get these expenditure reports from administration, from the Fiscal Services Office here in Commerce and Insurance, they give us, we're usually a month behind. So while in the office we can give you the revenue figures from our own RBS system when the girls key in the money, I can't give you the expenditure reports until a month later. We're behind and they're tabulating everything and paying the bills over Fiscal Services. So the right-hand column is year-to-date through September 30th, showing where the expenditures are. And again, by giving you this on a quarterly basis, you'll be able to see if there's any anomalies here in payments going out and what we're spending it on. So as of September 30th, the total revenue, total expenditures was $4,713, and the net revenue reported so far is $32,090. And that's all I have to report on the budgets. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for the detail.
Okay. Next item under my report is meeting dates. Susan's put together the schedule for meeting dates for 2013 and scheduled the room here so that we'll have it available. Anyone have any questions on that?
I've got one question. I'm assuming that we won't have a reason to meet on December the 7th. If we meet on the March date, will this one complaint that we have be over 180 days long? I'd like to not have to have these phone meetings if we can, just because they're not as public. And I was just wondering, are we going to be able to handle that complaint in March?
I believe that'll still be within the 180
Okay.
days because I believe we just opened that.
All right,
That was
just
recently.
checking to make sure.
Why is March on the 15th instead of on the first Friday?
Sorry.
We're set up to meet on the first Friday of every quarter, so what March is on the 15th, and that wouldn't be the first Friday.
Okay.
I don't know. I know spring break comes in there for some people. That's going to make a difference. But Well, I'm just wondering, do we know why it's not on the first? The question was, well,
Susan doesn't recall why maybe the room was scheduled already. We can check into that, but back to something Judge Kraft just said. This meeting is publicized. We do have to give notice of the meeting. We have it in this room so that any member of the public can come in and join in via teleconference. And there is some talk about legislation next year that will allow more and more meetings to be held, or maybe even require more and more board meetings to be held this method. So we'll see.
well, I don't mind at all the March 15th, because the further we get from January, the less likely there is for ice and snow and things like that. Unless there's an objection from anyone on the committee, and as long as we don't have any complaints that are too old, if there's not an objection, I think we would just adopt these times.
This is Veronica. I don't have an objection to March 15th. I have another conference in Chattanooga on that day, but perhaps I can miss that Friday. But that was the only thing I had to mention.
I know we had an ends of court meeting that we had to move because of spring break in March, and I'm not really sure exactly.
Is that not the week of judicial conference?
Yeah, we do have a judicial conference in March. I'm not sure exactly.
Because we usually schedule that Chattanooga conference at the same time, so there's no conflict with court appearances.
Right. Our judicial conference will only affect me, I think. And I'll have to check and see what our agenda is then.
Well, why don't we tentatively schedule this back for the first Friday in March?
Right, that would be March the 1st, I think.
And then, if we can't get this room available, we can move it to some other meeting room. And they're telling us in 2013 they want us to start scheduling our meetings over in the other building next door, where we'll be moving back to eventually, but they're finishing those conference rooms, and we're told to start scheduling meetings over there too in January. So let's just move it to March 1st, and we will secure a meeting room somewhere. Is that okay with you guys?
Do I hear an objection from anyone?
Now, I think just double check with Judge Kraft to make sure you're not conflicting his Friday for the judicial conference.
I have no problem at all with March 1st.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
All right, well then, without objection, we'll just show those as the dates.
Okay. I need you to vote on it.
Oh, we did? Okay. Do I hear a motion that we adopt these dates as handed out, except that we change Friday, March 15th to Friday, March 1st?
John Hudson, I so move.
I second Lauderback.
Any questions or discussion? All right, let's call for a vote.
Chris Kraft,
Approved?
Klein Lauderback,
Approved.
John Hudson,
Approve.
Hugh Harvey,
Approved.
Sidney Chisholm, Veronica Thornton.
Approved.
All right, motion carries.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, if you will recall, at our June meeting, we discussed some legislation that had passed at the last session of the legislature. And on this particular issue, we discussed Public Chapter 652, which that law passed, and it allowed certain private probation companies to supervise individuals convicted of Class C felonies. And we had the discussion about that, what impact it would have on staff, or what kind of applications would have to be filed, if any at all, how the council would deal with this new law that passed. So you had asked at that time that Benton talk to the AG's office or get some opinion from the AG's office, and you asked me to contact the Department of Corrections and see how we were going to work together on this new bill and regulating the people or companies who work with these Class C felony probation. So, I did finally got through over there to Miss Debbie Inglis, who is the General Counsel in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. And she sent me an email after several conversations, and was that in your package, the email? Yes. She basically says in that email there in front of you under tab 6 that they don't anticipate implementing this new Private Probation Act prior to next year, 2013, and she said that before they move forward, they would contact us and let us get involved in the process.
Somebody else is bleeding through, I think.
Okay.
I think one of the frustrations that I've had is I've had several judges call me saying, so we can put people on probation with e-felonies, and I'm saying, no, the Department of Correction, after you sentence them to the Department of Correction, they can use them, but judges still cannot. And I think there's a confusion there with it. So we made an announcement at our conference. This does not mean that you can give Class C felons private probation services. So there still may be some confusion out there on that.
I think that's something that we're waiting really to find out how the Department of Corrections is going to implement this particular law. So they, as Ms. Hancock said, they're not going to even discuss it until early next year, and so we'll be in talks with them to find out exactly what our responsibility is in implementing the law.
Judge Kraft, this is Veronica. I would think that it most likely will be handled through a contract process,
right,
grant process, just like community corrections would do.
That's right. From what I'm understanding, there are 2 or 3 probation companies that are already trying to get a contract with the Department of Correction, and they're in the mode right now. We're going to have to see, what's our criteria for who they're going to supervise, and instead of paying a monthly rate, they're going to have a total contract, and so it's their Department of Correction, from a fellow that I talked to there, they're still trying to figure out how they're going to implement that part of it. But some judges think they can just directly probate them through the private company from the courtroom, and they can't unless they have to, when they sentence somebody with an e-felony to the Department of Correction, and they're not going to be too many of those in the big counties because they usually have workhouses. So it'll be the smaller counties that have a forgery case where they give a guy 18 months or 2 years on a forgery, and then they have to send it to the Department of Correction. And then the department then will, instead of having one of their folks supervise them, they'll have a private company do it. But the judge is completely cut out of the loop unless there's a violation of probation filed, or violation of parole, or how they would want to term with the Department of Correction. And then they should even handle that part. So the judges should stay out of the loop. But there are a lot of judges that want to keep in charge of that and give felons to private probation companies, and they just can't do that. Anyway, I think the judges are starting to understand it.
Well, we'll keep you posted on what corrections does next and report back to you.
Yeah.
Well, I have found that in many of the courts that the Class C felons, the forgery and things of that nature, for the most part, are already going to the private probation program that supervises misdemeanors because they plead that down to a misdemeanor,
right,
for the sake of disposing of those cases. Now, not all counties are doing that, but a lot of them are to handle those situations.
They're not going to be big numbers because the judges are not going to usually sentence a guy with 1 or 2 years to the Department of Correction if there's a local workhouse in the county,
right,
or around there. So. Thank you very much for the update.
Okay. The last thing I had under my report was copies of a news release that was published on October 30th. And I guess you've got copies in your packets titled Cash Register Justice, Private Probation Services Face Legal Counterattack. We just wanted to bring this to your attention. I'm sure you saw this too, make you aware of that report. And if you need some, we'll discuss it if you'd like. that company that is mentioned in the article is not licensed in Tennessee. And I don't know if any companies here are attempting to do that or not. So.
I enjoyed the tattoos of the people involved.
I didn't know if the one sitting on the steps was the one they described as a slight person.
Right. You really couldn't tell. But it doesn't really fit the way she looked to me. But thank you for the information. Because that's a California company, I believe, that's working out of Georgia, and they could very likely apply to open up in here. So.
I wondered if this Georgia Probation Company was the one that had applied in Shelby County.
Oh, no, we checked that out.
Yeah.
I would let you know that.
All right.
I don't believe either of those two companies that got licensed from Georgia are doing anything in Tennessee yet.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sending us that.
That's all I have.
All right. I don't have any unfinished business. Does anyone else have anything they want to discuss? I'm assuming that we will not have business on December the 7th. So I'll be emailing everybody the week before, letting them know that we're going to be canceling that meeting unless some emergency comes up or something.
While we're on the record, we
Yes.
probably should vote and go ahead and cancel that meeting now if that's what you want to do.
Well, if you think we can do that now, if there's not going to be any well, I guess if there was some emergency petition or something that needs to be handled, we could always call an emergency meeting.
Exactly.
But I don't see a necessity for our fiscal meeting December the 7th, because the one complaint that's pending we can handle in our March meeting.
Right.
So, do I hear a motion that we not meet?
So moved. John Hudson.
I second the loan back.
Any questions or discussion?
So don't you have the prerogative just to call that on your own?
Well, I can, but Ms. Hancock wanted to vote, and so that's why my wife says whenever a lady asks you to do something, just go ahead and do it and then ask questions later.
Well, while we're on the record and can discuss it, it'll be part of the official record. I thought it'd be best to do that.
Right. And if something comes up that we need to meet, then of course we would let somebody know. But other than that, I found we don't have enough business for the meeting. And is that me with everyone's approval?
Yes.
All right. Without objection, that motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for taking part of your Friday morning. I really appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye.
Have a nice Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.